Here we go, the new Marshall Studio Classic is out. It's a replica of the JCM 800 Lead series and it's in stores for you to buy right now as of this moment. You're curious how it sounds? I'll show you. Hello fellow guitar players, welcome back to my channel. I'm Pete. Today we're talking about this thing here, the Marshall JCM 800 Lead series, which is now called the Studio Classic, so nothing confusing here. But before we get to the juicy parts of this video, let's get the boring stuff out of the way, the specs of this thing. Here they are. It's got preamp valves, which basically are two ECC83s and one ECC83 phase splitter, whatever the hell that is. It's got power amp valves, two EL34s. It weighs something, to be exact 9.4 kilograms or 20.7 pounds. And it's got 20 watt or 5 watt and it has an effects loop and a direct out too. So that's that. Before I show you what this thing can do, let me get you up to speed with a brief history of the JCM 800 series. Roll the clip. Marshall JCM 800, a brief history. When it hit the stores in 1981, there were no changes on the technical side. It was a mere facelift, if you will. The reason for this was that when it was released, the contract with Rose Morris, a reseller who had the exclusive rights for Marshall amps for the last 15 years, came to an end. And Rose Morris had still a lot of stock left. By changing the design, Marshall made it clear-cut and hoped to keep sales going. In the first year after the contract ended, Marshall catalogs read exactly the same as the years before. Two guitar tops with master volume, the 2203 and the 2204, and two without, the 1957 and the 1959. In the year 1982, Marshall released a 50-watt 1x12 combo type 4210. It was the first two-channel amp in the JCM series. It also had an effects loop and a spring reverb. This was a huge deal for the time, especially since Marshall had a new competitor named Mesa Boogie. A year later, Marshall released two tops with 50 and 100 watt, the 2205 and the 2210. These amps had diodes in the signal chain to get the distortion in the gain channel, which gave them a completely new characteristic from the 2203, 2204s. These amps sold quite good. Most JCM models died around the 1990s when music changed and bands wanted more gain and different sounds from their amps. There were always reissues around, but it was not until this year that Marshall released a JCM 800 Lead series in their core lineup, the Marshall Studio Classic. It is based on the 2203 but scaled down to 20 or 5 watts. Famous artists that played JCM 800s feature Tom Morello, Zakk Wylde, Slayer, The Cult, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, The Smashing Pumpkins, and the list goes on and on and on. Whew. Alright, I pre-recorded a little something for you to show you how versatile this thing is. I used a Les Paul, a Strat, and a Telecaster. I played some cleans, some crunch, and some high gain stuff. I put a Maxon 808 overdrive in front of it for the high gains, or some of the high gains. Listen, maybe you can hear it. And it's super tasty. There's a lot this thing can do. I tell you my 2 cents about this amplifier right after that clip. Roll it. Roll it. Roll it. Roll it. Now that you've heard what this thing can do, let me give you my 2 cents about it. Basically, what I found out is if you play around with the master volume and the preamp volume, you can get different kind of gains out of this thing. If you roll up the master volume, it's getting very shimmery, very clear and crystal, stuff like that. You've heard it. And if you turn this back down and use the preamp for all the gain, maybe slap an 808 in front of it, it's super heavy gain, which I love. I love both of it. It's very versatile. You can do a lot with this amp. Let's do the ratings. Price. This thing is expensive. I give it like a 7 out of 10. It's made in the UK. It's still not hand wired. It's got a printed board in there. It's around $1,000. I think it's €1,000, maybe $1,100 or something like that. So it's pricey. Is it worth it? In my opinion, if you can afford it, absolutely. Next. Sound. 9.5 out of 10. I love the way this thing sounds. I love the sounds you can produce with this thing. It has 2 channels. It has the low sensitivity and a high sensitivity. The low sensitivity basically just gives you cleans. The high sensitivity, all gain. There's so much you can do with it. It's really good sounding to my ears. I grew up listening to this thing. A lot of my favorite guitar players used it or modded versions of this, or the original of this, I should say. So yeah, to me, it's just absolute gold. Playability. Playability, I would give it 8.5 out of 10. Let me explain what I mean. This thing is very unforgiving. You hear everything you do with your fingers or your pick through this amp. So you have to be a good player to play it, because all your mistakes will come through super directly. It's a super direct amp, which I love because it gives you so much control over your guitar playing. You might like it, you might hate it. I love it. Practicality. I give it like 6 out of 10, I'd say, because, you know, let me show you something. Now, can you see this? This is Lunchbox. This is not a Lunchbox amp. It's still super heavy. It's still kind of big. I didn't check the specs before I ordered it, which was a surprise to me. I was expecting something like this, and I got this. I had to make space for it. It's still super loud in 20 watt mode and super loud in 5 watt mode. I most of the time slap an attenuator in front of it. But anyways, I love that fucker. Which brings me to the last point. Overall, 9.5 out of 10. I love this thing. It's my favorite amp right now. It plays beautifully. It sounds just amazing. I love how direct it is, that everything you do is translated directly into sound, so you can hear all the minute differences in your playing. It's a great amp. If you can afford it, go out, get one yourself. If not, sorry. Well folks, that's it for today. If you like this video, leave me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you think about Marshall's new studio lineup. Tell me if it would be a good idea to get the Studio Vintage, which is a clone of the Marshall Plexi. Are you interested in a review of that? I have to buy it with my own money though, so maybe give me half a year before I can afford it, or I have to sell something else. Anyways, that's it for today. I'm out. Subscribe, share, comment, all that stuff. See you next time.